Hey, Jackie. Nice dress.
Thank you, Lydia.
Okay, so we're Jackie and Lydia, and we like the cars. The cars that go boo. Wait, that's not how it works, is what? It's okay.
We
Okay,
are
we are Gauche
Gauche
Cavier.
Yeah.
All right. Did you say yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gauche
So
Cavier. Better living under capitalism. We are lefties. We're gauche, but we still want the proletariat to have caviar. I'm just kidding.
sure. Let them eat caviar? Is that where you're going?
No, it's this idea that it's okay to live, to be happy, even if you're not rich. Gauche Cavier.
Yes.
Well, it was a pejorative to call lefties hypocrite, but we're all hypocrites. So we're embracing hypocrisy.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I wanted to tell you about my working theory of what conservatism is. And this has been a thing that I think that I have been pondering about for years and years and years. And now that I have the framework in my mind, I feel kind of dumb that it wasn't obvious to me before. Okay. All right. So me and Jackie both grew up conservative. We actually grew up together. If you've listened to other stuff, we actually are childhood friends. And we both come from the very, very conservative background. Were you a Republican at some point in your life? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We were both Mormon Republicans. And our friends, our family friends, we know each other very well. Okay. I can barely remember life before I knew Jackie. I think I met Jackie when I was 7.
I was 4, so yeah.
4.
Very few memories before that.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when a lot of Jackie's siblings were born. My dad has actually delivered most of them.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and I would babysit your siblings. I babysat you a few times, I'm pretty sure. So what I used to think conservatism meant is basically if you want a good economy, that you should have lower taxes so there's more commerce to go around, and that would pay for government, and you should have freedom. That's basically what I thought conservatism meant. It really was. And I remember when I was changing my politics, I was like, well, freedom means freedom to choose things, even if my religion doesn't agree with it. So I remember, even though I was still like conservative believing Mormon, I remember thinking that I was socially liberal because actually Mormons are actually quite libertarian.
Yes, very much so.
In both, like Joseph Smith even said that the free will was God's will, and that trying to control people, trying to make sure they don't sin, was actually Satan's will. That's actually something that's very foundationally Mormon.
Yes, very much so. Free agency.
Free agency. So I remember being taught that anyone who wanted to, even if it was to do the right thing, if someone was trying to force you to do the right thing, that was the devil's plan.
Yes.
Okay. Right. And that was the whole thing we were taught as children, right? So I remember being 19 or 20 and actually believing that even though I believed that being gay wasn't what God wanted people to do, that they should be free to do it because, you know, that's what Jesus would want. I remember believing that and thinking, what? Y'all disagree with me. I remember even arguing that at BYU with people. So then I drastically changed my politics when I was about 21 or 22. I left the Mormon church, and you left a few years later.
Yeah.
So do you remember me leaving the church?
Kind of, but so what was the impetus for that? Why did you leave the Mormon church?
Well, so I got a health drink. And it had green tea in it. And I wanted to drink it and I was healthy. So I Googled green tea. Was green tea actually against the word of wisdom? Word of wisdom is a bunch of things that Mormons believe that God wants them to eat and not eat. So black tea is absolutely against the Mormon religion, but I didn't know if green tea was, so I was Googling it. And my mom, she saw it. She goes, this has green tea in it. And I'm like, I know, I'm looking into it. She goes, it's probably going to be okay, but I would caution you not to try to make too many exceptions. Then I thought it was actually probably practical of my mom. Like, she would be like, I'm not going to have Coke because it has caffeine in it, but I'm not going to be mad at other people. And she would say things like, oh, if someone else has decaf coffee, I'm not going to be mad about it. It's just not for me. So she kind of gave me that advice. I'm like, okay. So I looked into it and I started looking and I found Fanny Alger.
Oh, well, that's an interesting.
I don't know how that surge got me to
Rabbit hole.
her. And then I also found Helen Mar Kimball.
Okay. And were you a BYU student at this time?
No, I was after my divorce.
Okay.
Remember like that? I was having a bad marriage, and Jackie actually came to visit me when my husband left me high and dry. Like you stayed with me. Do you remember that? Yeah. Because I was like, we're gonna go help Lydia. So my brother and Jackie came to Provo to stay with me to make sure I was okay. Like, I'm serious. We are okay.
Yeah.
So this is after I got divorced. My husband was not a good man. And I'm still Mormon, but I was looking at Jake. So it's actually in Bakersfield when this happened.
Okay, gotcha.
And I read about Helen Mar Kimball. So Helen Mar Kimball was a young lady. She was 14 or 13. She's 14 when Joseph Smith stayed at her dad's house. And in the middle of the night, he told her that God wanted him to marry her. And so she said, oh, well, you're the prophet. That must be true. So they got married. No witnesses. He did it himself, had sex with her. And then the next day he's like, guys, go bye. And Helen Mar Kimball was depressed her entire life. And because she was a married woman, she couldn't like go out with her friends. And then, Joseph Smith also told her parents that because, he married and fucked their daughter, that they would go to heaven. And they believed that.
It's like you're guaranteeing the salvation of your parents.
Because I fucked you. Yeah. So she fell ill, which she was quite a bit older after Joseph Smith was killed. And she decided to let go of her resentment and anger, and then she got better. So so the church says she accepted the marriage, even though she was bitter about it for a long time. Sure, I guess. But I remember sitting there in the living room thinking, wait a second. So you're taught as a Mormon to see Joseph Smith as probably he's a human and all, but there's God, there's Jesus,
he's way up.
And then there's the Holy Ghost, and then there's Joseph Smith. Seriously, that's how we're taught to think of him. He's up there. He's Moses is here. Joe is here. Adam may be here. Joe is still up here. Okay. Abraham, no, he's not then beat. That's how we're taught. Okay. So I remember sitting there thinking, wait a second. I remember thinking about my 14-year-old cousin at the time and my family.
Yeah, she was 14, right?
She was 14. Yeah. And I remember thinking. And I remember thinking, wait, if some 30-something man said to our family, oh, I'm going to marry your 14-year-old cousin, we would be like, get out of here, creepo. And then I thought, what if it was me? What if it was me when I was 14? And I remember my dad and mom would have been like, ew, go. My mom was very protective of us. Yeah. She would have told this guy to take a hike. So I was just like, well, why does this situation make it different? It's the layers. When you listen to me, you're just like, well, obviously he's a sexual abuser, obviously, right? But when you're taught, you have to untangle it. And I remember thinking, go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to interject really quick that what you're describing, I would call cognitive dissonance. And it's a thing that most Mormons go through when they hear something that doesn't connect with what you had heard or felt, believed growing up. So it's a very common process, but that's what it sounds like you're describing here.
Yeah. So I'm doing this. I'm going through cognitive dissonance. And I remember thinking, well, this wouldn't be okay if it was any other 14-year-old I know. So why is Helen Mar Kimball? I remember asking myself, it's funny. I never doubted God loved me. I didn't doubt that. Because here's the thought. God loves me. I know that. Why wouldn't God also love Helen Mar Kimball? That's what I thought. Okay. So I was just I had empathy for her. And I thought, ew, Joseph Smith is a creeper. And so then I asked my mom, how is this okay that he had these 14-year-old wives? And he goes, oh, that was very normal for the time. I'm like, oh, okay. So I looked into it. It was not. It was.
Yeah, I know. That's what I.
Yeah. We were taught that, it was very normal for the time for 14-year-olds and whatever. I'm like, first of all, no, he had multiple wives. That was not normal. And it wasn't normal for him, the brides as young as he was having. In fact, that was the reason Mormons were persecuted. We were taught Mormons were persecuted because we were Mormon, right? We were persecuted because of Joseph Smith's sexual exploits. That's why we were persecuted.
One other thing, one note is that, it's very well known and accepted in Mormonism that Brigham Young had multiple wives. But I was in the missionary training center. It took until I was in the MTC as a 19-year-old going on a mission, and I found this random laminated card that talked about Joseph Smith having multiple wives before I learned that. So if it's no big deal and totally fine, why don't Mormons openly talk about Joseph Smith? It's because there's all of this shady stuff. So they don't, even though it's accepted, nobody talks about it. So clearly it's not okay.
I know a lot of ex-Mormons go through exactly what you're talking about, but I don't remember not knowing this. I remember always knowing it. So because the CES letter, which we can talk about, didn't shock me because there was nothing there. I knew that Joseph Smith was looking in a hat. But my dad was a skeptic forever. I think he probably just told us all this stuff.
I used to Bible bash in high scholl with Christians that told me I was going to hell. So I read all of the anti-Mormon stuff is what we called it because it was against the church. And I actually didn't believe it because it came from a place of Christians attacking my belief. And so I was like, well, that probably isn't right. So I didn't trust the source until later I could verify it from other ways. But I didn't know, I was familiar with the arguments.
Interesting. And stuff. So I always knew that stuff. And again, so my dad left the church for me. So I'm guessing that as he was working through it, when he would come home and he would well, the close of this, he's like, they say this, but here's what I think. And he was justified. My dad wanted to be Mormon. I don't know if you know this about my dad.
Okay.
He was disappointed that the church wasn't true.
So I don't know if you know.
Bad.
Yeah. I don't know if you know this, but I actually probably more than once, but I sat outside of the Starbucks at the marketplace and had a several-hour conversation with your dad about the church when I was
Did
still
you?
Mormon.
When you were still Mormon?
No, I was still Mormon, but he wasn't. And he was explaining to me some of the things about it. He was very respectful. Your dad was just very smart and very logical. And I was very proud or whatever you want to call it. And I was trying to convince your dad to come back.
Oh, that was not going to happen.
That was my mindset. And I went, and it was just one of those nuggets that would stay with me later. But it was an
really,
yeah.
I want to talk to you about that more. I did not know that. You just saw him. Did he just see you?
Yeah,
did you plan it?
And then we started talking.
He's like, oh, hey. And then he sat down with you and talked.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Okay. So I look into it and it's not true. So the Mormons were actually persecuted for Joseph Smith's sexual exploits. So once that came down, I was like, that was taught to me as a defense mechanism. And then I was like, okay, so wait, Joseph Smith's behavior is creepy. It's creepy by today's standards, and it was creepy by those standards. I also knew that wasn't correct. The current Mormon doctrine is you get into heaven on your own merit. So the actions of Helen Mar Kimball couldn't have saved her parents. So that was a lie. And if the church is true and Joseph Smith is the founder or restorer of the modern gospel, then how would he get the theology that wrong? And then I was like, and he did it to get sex. So I remember I lost my faith sitting there empathizing with Helen Mar Kimball and Fanny Alger. So Fanny Alger was not, because she was an adult, Fanny Alger was his mistress, Joseph Smith's mistress, not a wife. And then I was reading this account, and there was this feminist Mormon. There are Mormon feminists, and she was talking about how she dealt with Fanny Alger. She goes, I don't know how to square this with my faith. This is a lot of people do. They go, I don't know how to square this with my faith, so I'm just going to have faith that I'll find out one day. That's what a lot of people do. But then she said, whatever that business with Helen Mar Kimball and Fanny Alger was, it was not of God. Yeah. That is what she said. And I was like, I believe that. So I actually didn't lose my faith in God. I lost my faith in Joseph Smith.
Yeah.
I mean, later on, I sometimes consider myself an atheist, and sometimes I consider myself an agnostic. To me, I don't need to absolutely not believe in God to recognize that God, so basically, if God is real, when I lost my faith in Mormonism, I didn't lose my faith in God. The reason I left the Mormon church is because I thought God must love me. Therefore, the sexism of Joseph Smith is not of God. Like, that's literally my thought process.
Yeah. No.
So I remember going to my branch president at the time. It's kind of like a bishop, but I was in the singles ward, so we didn't have a bishop, we had a branch president. When you have smaller groups of congregations, they're called branches. That's cute because they're like little branches. And then if they're bigger groups, they're called wards. Yeah.
Got so much Mormon lingo in here. Yeah. I'm sorry for you.
So my branch president, I said, I'm having trouble with my faith. And he's like, well, tell me about it, Lydia. And I was like, okay. So I said, well, first of all, I don't really feel like God would make anyone. First of all, I believe people are born gay. And a living God would not make gay a sin if people are born gay. I said that to my branch president, and he said, well, a lot of people have that issue. A lot of people have that issue with the faith, but I just want you to keep with it. He didn't really have, that's what he said. And then I said something else. Oh, I think I don't remember what it is, something about Joseph Smith. And he said, you're going to be fine. He didn't like answer my question. He said, you're going to be fine. And that's what he said to me. He goes, you're Lydia Terry. You're going to be fine. And here's the thing about that. Okay. Here's the thing about that. This man was the bishop. I don't know how much you know about this. Do you know about the Marcus Acey scandal?
Mm.
Okay. Oh, do you know who Marcus Acey is?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think so.
Well, that's a big scandal. Okay. So Carlos Acey is he passed away. He's a very prominent, famous Mormon. His son was my dad's best friend growing up, Marcus Acey. Did you know about this? Do you know about it?
Maybe I don't know this scandal.
Okay. So Marcus Acey moved to Bakersfield randomly. And then my dad saw him at something, and then he's like, oh my gosh, my childhood friend. So we were really close with the Aces. Did you ever hang out with the Aces when we hung out with the Aces?
I don't think so.
So anyway, Marcus Acey was a bishop in Bakersfield, and Anderson was the stake president. You know Anderson?
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah. So Anderson was Marcus's bishop. So Marcus is a con artist. And he also had an affair as he was bishop on his wife when she had a new baby at home with someone he was counseling as a bishop.
Ooh.
He also got my dad to invest in his scam. So he scammed my dad out of thousands and thousands of dollars. This was right about the time my parents got divorced, and it certainly didn't help.
Yeah.
My dad is a very smart man, but he trusted his best friend.
Mm.
So this is all happening. So my dad left the church. He had a lot of conversations with Anderson about this. So when Anderson said to me, you're a Terry, I remember thinking, wait a second, you're popping Kyle Terry's daughter, who so my dad told Anderson, if God is real, then how could you call Marcus Acey as the bishop? Wouldn't have God had stopped you? And then Anderson told my dad, well, you didn't have the insight and whatever to not recognize his scams. So they blamed each other. So my dad is the one who invested in Marcus Acey, but Anderson is the one who called him to be a bishop. And apparently the Mormons believe that God will not let the priesthood lead anyone astray. So my dad's like, well, you fucking led us astray with Marcus Acey being bishop. You said he was bishop. I trusted him. So I was just sitting there just like, wait a second. You're the man who was above Marcus Acey when he scammed my dad and then blamed my dad, and my dad left the church. So who are you calling a Terry? Okay, so I'm just like, yeah, that's right, bitch. I'm Lydia fucking Terry. Okay, and so then I said, I was teaching Sunday school at the time, and I had to lie. So I was teaching this thing, and I was like, I was teaching about reading the Book of Mormon every day. And I did. And I remember when I read the Book of Mormon, I would always think of myself as a warrior for Jesus or whatever. You get very caught up, especially in the later books of the Book of Mormon. There's a lot of wars and there's always causes. So I would get that when I would read Alma, especially, I'd be like, fight. Yeah, fucking fight. Yeah. So you get this mentality. So it really is kind of brainwashing. They tell you to read every day. A lot of people don't really pay attention to things, but I do. So I was saying this. I'm like, if you read the Book of Mormon every day, you really feel like you're part of the cause. And so this lady raised her hand. She goes, well, you're forgetting one thing. And I'm like, what am I forgetting? She goes, well, you have the Spirit. And I'm just like, yeah, that's right. I forgot. I feel the Spirit when I read the Book of Mormon. And I remember like, I just lied. Okay. And so I told him, I said, I had to lie. No, I think she says, you believe that it's true and God's will. So that's why I was just like, here are all the benefits of reading the Book of Mormon. She's like, well, you forgot the main thing. God told you to, and you're a believer. And I'm like, yeah, that's why I read it. So then I said, I had to lie to teach. I said, I will continue to play the organ because I had two callings. I played the piano or the organ or whatever. But I don't want to continue teaching because I had to lie and I'm not comfortable with lying. And he said, you'll be fine.
You'll be fine.
I never went back. I never went back. So like I literally was negotiating him. I will stay in the church. I will continue to play the organ. I cannot teach Sunday school because I don't have a testimony right now.
Yeah.
He said, I interpreted that, go ahead and continue to lie.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think there's a couple really interesting things that I think, like, one is like being outside of Mormonism think about if anyone outside of our purview would go to another person and say, hey, I don't believe in this thing. Like, tell me why I don't believe in it. Right. It's kind of a weird structure that you would go talk to this leader about not
your doubt.
That you would even go and not just be like, yeah, whatever. That's because that's what we were put in, like, is that kind of patriarchal structure where you believe in your leaders, even as you're doubting, and you think that somehow they can resolve this problem that you have. Right. I just wanted to pay attention to that. And I don't know if I'm zeroing too much in on this, but I think that's really interesting to know.
It is interesting how you think I don't need to, like, if I do something wrong, I can just apologize to the person I'm wronged.
Yeah.
I don't have to go confess to a bishop.
The other thing is, like, I think that like you and I are very similar because I also read the Book of Mormon every day. I mean, for sure, not every day, but like for the most part, I was every day committed to Mormonism, like to doing what I was supposed to do. And when I doubted, I was like, well, maybe I just need to double down and be better at this. Or like when I felt guilty, maybe I just need to confess. Maybe I just need to like work through this. And I mean, that's sort of how I approached being gay, right? It's, well, maybe I'm just tempted because I'm doing something wrong. And if I keep going, if I keep having faith, then eventually we'll get to the place where I'm not dealing with this struggle, or I have the strength to overcome whatever's happening, right? I mean, and I don't know if we've talked about this like publicly yet, but I used to be married in the Mormon temple, like to a woman, because I believe, because of the Mormons' teachings, because of et cetera. We can get into that later. Ask me about my conversion therapy is like,
I think we have talked about this. I think we have talked about this, but go ahead.
Yeah, probably. It's just like, I thought, like, I took it kind of as far logically as you could go without giving up on it. It's like, it's like, okay, well, just have faith that it will work out if you get married. Okay, I got married. Have faith that, the Lord will help you through this struggle. Okay, well, we're doing what we can. And like, of course, like they can always get you with little things like, oh, well, maybe you're just not reading the Book of Mormon enough. Like I remember my brother told that to me when I came out to him, and I was like, I've read the Book of Mormon so many times. If that was a cure for homosexuality, it would have worked by now. I like bent myself over.
Were your knuckles bloody?
My knuckles were metaphorically quite bloody. Yes. I had prayed and cried and tore myself inside out trying to conform to the plan that God had for me, the plan of salvation, that I was to be a heterosexual male priesthood leader and a good husband and father and provider, etc., and to just fill my role, right? And that God would bless me if I did this thing, if I conformed. And I tried, and I tried, and I tried, and I tried to be what I was supposed to be, right? Like what I had been taught from the time I was a kid, I was supposed to be. I mean, I went on a Mormon mission, spent 2 years knocking doors, learning Spanish, teaching the gospel, as it's called, to people. And it was hard. I couldn't talk to my family. I couldn't go out. I spent about 16 hours a day. I mean, with breaks and dinner too, but like doing this. And then I came home and I taught at the missionary training center, and I served in church callings. I was an executive secretary. Like, so what I want to highlight is that it was through being completely and totally Mormon that you and I left for our integrity. Because at some point, I had to say, look, I don't believe this. I can't be part of it. Like
it's a choice of integrity.
I have learned all of these things and tried to live your, values and this and that. And with those values, I am saying this is wrong. So for me, what it was is like, I couldn't reconcile the things the prophets had said about homosexuality with my own experience. Like I did all kind of mental gymnastics trying to say, hey, well, maybe this prophet just spoke inaccurately here. But like at some point, like, especially as they kept repeating it, even into like the 2000s, whatever it was, like, I think it was like after I left that like Boyd K. Packer still had some like major rant against homosexuality. Like, they're not getting better. They're not changing. There's like minor things where they're becoming more tolerant and saying like, well, you can be gay, but not like act on it or whatever. And you're like, is that really that much better? I mean, sure, but it's not enough. And I knew that they were wrong. And so if they were not speaking for God about this, like, what else was wrong?
Yeah.
And it's sort of like open it, because there's so much like, okay, so I think that there's two things that I noticed from listening to you talk about Mormonism, and I want to hear what you say, is like, one, there's a sort of universality, right? It's almost like a Kantian universality, like golden rule. You wouldn't want something done to you or you wouldn't do something to another person that you wouldn't want done to you. Like, it's not exactly that, but like pretty close, as you're describing.
The empathy for Helen Mar Kimball.
Yeah, the empathy for
I
Helen.
wouldn't want a prophet to say that I had to marry him and have sex with him. Right, exactly.
Yeah. I don't know like what to call this, but there's like an element of absolutism, right? That you have to grasp onto in Mormonism, that later you have to question, but you still, I don't know what to do with that. And because I think this is like sort of the root of conservatism, but then that's
it is.
Because conservatives are wishy-washy about all kinds of things, but like, there's, I don't know.
But there's one thing they're not wishy-washy about.
Okay.
So if you think about what the one thing they're not wishy-washy about, it all falls into place.
All right.
Okay. And I actually hadn't made the connection to Mormonism until you started talking about that. They're like, so they changed to preserve something. Do you see how they changed their face to preserve their power?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the modern conservative movement originated with Edmund Burke, who was rather dismayed at the French Revolution.
Yeah.
So if you think about that, so just really think about it. He was dismayed by the French Revolution, not because some monarchs lost their head. It was because the proletariat are the one who removed the heads.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and he started talking about the underpinnings of society. Okay. So he talked a lot about that, the institutions of society. So a conservative at their very nature believes that existing power structures must remain. That is the universal constant for all conservatisms. And once you see it, you see it. That's why they contradict. If democracy serves their purpose, they like democracy. If authoritarianism serves their purpose, they like authoritarianism. So like guns protect people who have from those who have not. You get a black man with a gun, so the black man is a marginalized position, and suddenly, oh my God, that cell phone looks like a gun, get him. Okay? So once you see it, once you see the framework of the person in power has the right to stay in power and has to be guarded against those who would take it from them, you understand actually they haven't found an exception to every conservative position, and their hypocrisy starts to make sense.
Mm.
Once you see it, you see it.
Well, yeah, because...
So society has been built to support straight marriage. So why in the world did they say, like, why would anyone say, do you remember being confused about why they said gay marriage would threaten straight marriage? Do you remember, like, what are you talking about?
Like, how is it a threat? Yeah.
It only matters if there's a difference or if there's a power imbalance. This equality threatens power. If there's equality, there isn't power. Okay, so that's why, because they need to be above to gays. That's why. So they literally mean it when they say they threaten it. And the truth is, you don't have to even realize this about yourself because it's instinctual. So if you think about this, if you get something, like you get something nice, do you start keeping it safer? Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's just how far you take it. So like, as a parent, I want to protect my child, right? So they just take it not to the family. They start taking it to the religion, to the gender, to the social structures, and to the country. They just protect what's ours from those who would take it from us extremely far. And so think about this. Think about like cancel culture. So cancel culture really came about with R. Kelly, right?
Okay.
Are they for R. Kelly? Or are they mad that Black women took his head off? So he's not mad. So Edmund Burke isn't mad that Marie Antoinette lost her head. He's mad that the proletariat did it. Conservatives are not mad that R. Kelly's in jail. They're mad that Black women, the modern proletariat, did it.
I didn't know that conservatives were mad about R. Kelly.
Well, but R. Kelly is the first victim of cancel culture.
Sure.
They're mad at
absolutely.
cancel culture. They're mad that cancel culture is putting power in those who have historically not had power.
Marginalized.
They're not mad at boycott. They're not mad at people who should be out and about going to jail. They just need the police and the existing structure to be the police force, not Twitter.
Well, yeah, they're
That's what the problem with cancel culture is. The power has shifted.
Yeah, sorry. They're mad at protests, but not like a violent storming of the Capitol, right? Like it's
right.
like the people who are marginalized protests, like police have to restore order, and if their person loses, that they're patriots, like how dare you question that? You know?
So I remember when Richard Spencer got socked in the face, right?
Yeah.
This person I know, I don't want to say who this person is, said, obviously I think Richard Spencer is awful, but that violence is never the answer. And I was just like, wait a second. So like 2 weeks earlier than that, he had said that if the Jews had guns, the Holocaust would have never happened. And I was just like, okay, first of all, I know that's not true. I know that there's so many real things wrong with that, but let's just take it at face value. I said, wait, 2 weeks ago, he shared this meme that was actually promoting like homicidal violence against Jews. Richard Spencer just got socked in the face and you're against that? And he goes, So the difference is it's depending on existing social structures. So you know what I mean? So like to him, this example, he's for the marginalized having guns when it serves its purpose, but what's actually happening, the position who's particularly in a normal position of power, white Richard Spencer, gets socked in the face by a woke, anti-Nazi, that's a step too far. Martin Luther King said, no violence. Right. Okay. So that's the thing. And when you tell them, they're just like, oh, I can't believe that the Black Lives Matter protests are violent, which they're mostly not. I'd be like, wait, don't you like the Second Amendment? Well, yeah. What are you talking about? Like, what's the Second Amendment supposed to do? Oh, so they protect yourself from the government. The government, you mean police? Well, no, not police. Well, why not police? Well, I'm like, every single person who believes in the Second Amendment does not believe that violence is not the answer. And they go, then they start like, blah, and they can't. And they've been off into the Facebook ether and they go away. So they're against the marginalized and using violence against the powerful. They are not against the powerful using violence to control the marginalized. Once you get it, they don't care about violence. They just don't want the proletariat bringing out the guillotine. And then once I got it, I was like, oh, it's it. It makes sense. Edmund Burke, he actually just read Edmund Burke and you're like, oh, got it.
Yeah.
It's frustrating, right?
No,
That's why they're hypocrites. They're not actually hypocrites. They are consistent. They just.
I think what's kind of incredible though, like I'm gonna put out the spark of hope for a second, is that in spite of all of this, like gay marriage happening, which was a social movement for equality, and there's a lot we can talk about how, the movement, LGBT rights are way more than gay marriage, et cetera, et cetera. But for the moment, let's just talk about that crack or that fracture in the hegemony, like actually is a space to make more change than probably like people realize. And it has, and I guess that's like, maybe that's where like,
because it moved to social structure.
Because it did topple one of the pillars of white, straight, patriarchal hegemony. And the thing is, like, as you see this conservative backlash against, gender nonconformity with like, don't say gay, which was, by the way, just overturned in Florida court, which is awesome. And because two like lesbian moms were like, yeah, no, this is not going to fly in our child's school. And that's great. And I like, and by the way, one thing I want to notice is like, if you kind of like put your like ear to the ground and see what the conservatives are talking, they've actually shifted away from the gender panic a bit. And it's all about immigration now. So they've got a new target. No, don't get me wrong. Probably the Jordan Peterson. Say what?
Immigration is always their scapegoat.
No, for sure. And that is especially.
And if you understand that framework, you understand why. Every immigrant is here to take away what they have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, it's so instinctual. It's stupid. Let's just be real about that. So.
Oh, it's incredibly stupid. Yeah.
But speaking of hope, so the conservative position always is losing. Okay, so look over history. It's rarely ever run. And when it does win, at least, I guess in Russia, it kind of won. But it usually loses. Eventually it loses because it's inherently hypocritical. Okay, because there's always someone else who wants equality. So it's a losing idea. So they keep changing their ideas so it's always about managing losses. They will never ever actually put forth popular politics. So that's one thing to hope. And the other thing to hope is like you and me, there's a lot of people who grow up conservatives actually believing the actual propaganda they put out. Yeah. And then eventually they will run into hypocrisy like you and I, we ran into hypocrisies. Then we're like, wait a second, I actually believe in freedom and equality. You don't. Oh, okay. So because they can't ever be honest about their positions, they will lose their children, which happens all the time. Does that make sense? And then the other hope is, well, those are the two things that I hope. So if we can just if we can just not die from climate change, I'm okay. It's just, we have to figure climate change. Like, we can't wait for that. We can't wait for them for it just to work out. So if it wasn't for climate change, I would say very Gauche Cavier, just like try your very best so I always think, do your activism to promote change, but also like community building. Like, if I can't help everyone, if I can help my neighbor get through it, if I can help my gay neighbor or my marginalized, my victims, whatever, if I can do that, then better for all. So that's kind of how I see it, except I am really scared about climate change. So
yeah,
that's another reason we're buying land. We wanted land because like I was telling because we're thinking about buying a house right now. I would say I just want some land, so just in case, because we're planning on living there forever. I just want land, so it'll be safer. I mean, I wish we were getting a little bit more land than we are, but we're getting some land. So I just want to be able to grow a garden. I'm not trying to disconnect from society, but I feel like we should. But because I fully intend to survive
your own garden,
any like climate change apocalypse, I totally intend to do that. So, or at least my progeny. So, so that's kind of where I'm coming from. But
yeah, my friends moved out of Bakersfield to somewhere more north because they're afraid of climate change and want to live somewhere that won't be super hot in however many years that happens. That it will still be a reasonable climate. And that's like, I'm like, wow, that's a really interesting consideration. And like, that's a really interesting way to look at it, because on the one hand, like leftists, and I agree with them, like promote community building and things on the local level. And it's true that like local elections matter. Like none of this is wrong. It's just that like, I think like Greta Thunberg and others have it right, that there is an actual like mass collective energy that has to happen to prevent the world from destruction at this point.
So
and
the
young people see it.
No, the climate change is real.
No, they've known it since the 70s, and they've obfuscated.
So I did a lot of work with solar farms.
Okay.
They're almost all being invested in by the gas, with the oil company.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're just trying to extract as much wealth as possible. They don't really care how many people die in the process, because they can still go shop at Whole Foods and their kids will be okay. There will not, like the human race is not going to end. It's just going to significantly be contracted.
And suffer, yeah.
It's going to be a lot of suffering, but they're not going to suffer, because those in power can stay in power. That's what they believe. Like, the world are of the world, and we must protect them.
It's like, okay, so now we're going to get into current events, which are so, like, I don't know if spice.
Yeah, like what we saw when Trump was in presidency. And
we're podcasting.
Oh.
Look, we can hear what Mason has.
Okay, Mason, come share your podcast ideas. He's like, I have something to say. Simba, do you want to talk? What do you have to say? Simba was like, look at him, that couch.
Well, I was just thinking that mentality that it's like, if I'm the one who's
sorry, because of that, like I'm trying here, but that is there you go.
If I'm on team hegemony, right, they'll take care of me.
Team hegemony.
So like, I remember reading several times when Trump was president, and like he enacted policies that made things harder on conservative areas. You'd get people from those areas saying stuff like, oh, he's hurting the wrong people. Like they want him to hurt people, just not them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they talk, and that's where gratitude comes in. Like, why, if we're grateful to Trump, then he'll bless us. Mm-hmm. So the conservative mindset, if they like a daddy, they want a daddy who takes care of them. And that's why they say things like, oh man, we have so much work. There's so much work, dignity at work. But the rich don't work.
Yeah.
So, because it's this like feudalistic sort of like, I have to be protected by the person I work for. They'll protect me. My lord and daddy will protect me.
Yeah.
Right?
So like,
will you be my lord and daddy and protect me?
That's supposed to be the other way around.
Am I your mommy?
Yeah.
Daddy Trump will take care of us. It's like, oh, it's so sick.
Hey, baby.
So here's where we're gonna get spicy.
He's never gonna tell him this podcast again.
He what?
He's like, I'm never talking on this podcast again.
Oh my gosh. He's like, I'm done with it. So here's where we're gonna get spicy. All right. And maybe connect some interesting dots. Okay. So we talked about Taylor Swift last time. But what we didn't talk about, which is sort of in the background, but we like talked about it without talking about it, is celebrity culture. And actually more important than that is monarchy, right? Like, and you can connect this, like, so we're going to go a bit of a segue and then come back around. But I was listening to NPR this morning and they were talking about Kate Middleton's edited photo and the scandal surrounding why the royal family is putting a fake photograph out of Kate Middleton in the middle of everything going on. Like, clearly it's been photoshopped. Did it really happen? The Associated Press actually flagged it as a completely like unacceptable photo to publish. And you're like, so what's all? And it's really interesting because the person on the podcast was just, I don't like the royal family. I don't like talking about the royal family. I think that the monarchy should be abolished, but I have to care about the royal family right now because this is what's happening. And it's like, I'm not a Taylor Swift hater. I'm not a hater of Swifties, but I have to question why. And for me, I guess like, so the person
question why what?
Totally
I feel like I have an answer. I will answer your question.
Or an investor. The person that is like that for me is Donald Glover. I just absolutely fucking love Childish Gambino. I love Community. I love like everything I've seen. Like he's magic. But then I like have to take a step back and it's like, why is this my feudal lord? Right? Like not exactly, but why is this the person that I elevate so high about?
Well, you should look up the scandal that's happening with him for the model who posed on Redbone.
Oh.
Yeah, she's saying she didn't get paid. So is it, what he's saying, I don't know anything what she's talking about. So is she cashing in? I don't know. But if you want to, hate on, okay. But like, okay, Donald Glover is fantastic. You are valid in your fandom. He is incredible.
No, and like, there's nothing wrong with
get high on mushrooms sometime and listen to Redbone, and you'll be like, "What?" It'll
blow my mind. This is America. Fabulous song. Like it was my
oh my god, yes.
Running in the gym. Like I'm going to like fuck all of this. Like you're right.
Like that song is so good. It's so every time I listen to that song or I watch the video, I'm just like pure and it's just magic. Now I want to listen to that song. Okay, so what is your question about Middleton?
So my question is, why in 2024 are we still obsessed, even in America, with the English monarchy? Absolutely obsessed.
Well, I think it's that instinct. I think we all have this instinct where we want to protect establishment. Okay, so I think that's a big deal. And it's like, part of you just kind of wish, wouldn't it be nice to be royalty a little bit? Like, I think that I would turn it down because I would want to look at myself in the mirror. But can you really blame Meghan Markle for marrying Prince Harry?
No.
I don't know. Okay. So I understand where she left though. But like, I don't know. I mean, I also get annoyed with it. I get annoyed. I don't want to hear about it. If you click on one article or you hear all sorts of stuff, like because I clicked on something about Kate Middleton, my phone is now giving me updates from Daily Mail about something Meghan Markle said or if Kate Middleton said. And I was like, I can't. It's so toxic. It's so fucking toxic.
Right.
But like, God, they're so annoying. But
so
like,
on the one hand, like there's this media obsession with them. And like, I remember when Princess Diana died, like that
I remember where I was and how I felt the day she died.
Yeah. It was a big deal.
You were what?
I was at my next door neighbor's house. I like was watching the TV stuff, like with the crash and everything. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
No, I fucking know her. But they look like, I was like 16 or whatever. I didn't know that much about her, but I was like, oh my God, Princess died.
And like,
think about,
but she left. She left the monarchy. So,
that's true. Like she was a badass. Don't get me wrong. But like at the same time, it's like, I mean, yeah.
So there are rumors. I don't want to be a conspiratorial thing. So I don't know. Like I'm like, am I being shameless here? But I think it's very interesting too. Like there are rumors that William is stepping out on her.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of rumors about that for years. And whereas like I don't care. Like if you are like they couldn't have maybe have an open marriage,
Maybe.
and there's no way that would be out, I don't know. I imagine a lot of powerful people do because they have to stay married. They have to. So if they're a power couple. So I imagine that's a thing that happens, but maybe she's mad that he got caught. And
No, but this is a good framing though. Why do they have to stay married? Why?
Okay, so why would if Kate Middleton left him? Think about where the monarchy is going. So the second Elizabethan era is over. Like she was probably one of the greatest queens of England who's ever been, and it's over. And she oversaw colonialization and retraction. So, well, I guess her dad was more of the so she saw and she was queen as democracy rose and removed. No, they have democracy. She oversaw republicanism rising, which is the opposite of a monarchy. Republicanism is the opposite of monarchy, not democracy, actually. But she saw republicanism rise and take over what she believed in. So, and she handled it with grace, but no one really likes her son. I think he's cool because he married the woman of his dreams. I thought that was kind of cool. But like, he truly loves his wife, and I always thought that was really cool. And he's an environmentalist, and I like Prince Charles, but I'm weird, so I think Prince Charles is great. But he followed his heart, and he is an environmentalist, and he's going to become king. So I think that's great. I don't think much. I did read Harry's book, and William does kind of sound like an asshole. And then like after there was a scandal about Harry's kids being interracial and their skin color, William like posed hugging some Black people, and I'm like, oh God, he's got Black friends. Oh wow, he doesn't have any racist bones, right? Right? He's got a Black friend and no racist bones. Good for him. And so I was just like, oh, he's cringe. Like he's my age. William is my age, and so I thought, come on, man, you should know better. So I'm Team Harry, obviously. Again, it really bothers me that we have a prince in California. Okay, whatever. We have a prince and princess and a couple of princes and princesses there too. That bothers me, but whatever. I think it is funny that there was that thing that happened I think it is funny that there was that Trump document, the DeSantis document where Disney said this shall be in effect until to the death of Prince Charles's children, and Lilibet is the youngest. So Disney was the American princess. Yeah, Disney is being protected by the existence of Lilibet. Lilibet. I think that's cool. So go Disney princess, the little princess in California somewhere. But okay, so that was kind of cool. But the thing is, if you were Kate Middleton and you were looking at all this, like to me, I would see the monarchy is dying, but I'm a celebrity and I love my children. Like to me, I would leave. I would be like, scandal. And then I would be the modern day Princess Diana, and I would go make sure that my kids were fine. So like, if they leave the monarchy, they'll be celebrities for the rest of their life.
No, for sure.
They're worth billions. So, and Harry and Meghan are worth like 300 or 400 million now with all the deals they're doing. Like she's seeing that. She's like, I don't need this monarchy. I don't need this.
They're doing fine.
Yeah. So she would probably do even better, especially if he is cheating. So imagine if he is cheating on her and she's got receipts, and imagine if she has proof that they were worried about the skin color of Harry's children. If she writes a book, no one will blame her.
Hell, yeah, no, for sure.
Which of course she does. Of course they said that. Like, of course they did. I have an interracial kid. People well-meaning talk about it. So, of course they did. She's got the receipt. So,
yeah.
Anyway, but I'm interested in it because I think that if this is more than an abdominal surgery, if she is leaving, because she's not dead. They saw her like 3 or 4 days ago with her mom in a car. She's not dead. So if she's leaving, go girl. Like I'm happy to see her go. So At the very
Yeah.
least, they're probably negotiating with her. Like, when, because Melania Trump would disappear. Like, could you imagine being married to Donald Trump? She would disappear, and I'm sure that there's negotiations to get her to stay. So then she would
Honestly,
still
I
back
haven't
up.
seen her in a long time.
Oh,
like,
she
in any
hates
public
him.
appearance.
She
Like,
can't
I haven't
stand
seen
him.
her at all. Like,
Yeah.
where the fuck is she?
Yeah. So can you imagine being married to these people? Like, she's just like, just showing up by their side.
Okay.
So obviously she's not there. She's obviously not there. She wasn't posing with those kids, or that's an old photo. They edited it for some reason, or they probably just put her in. That's not right. Like, maybe someone else is posing there. So she's not there. And she didn't write that. Of course she didn't write that. So
yeah.
I don't know, but we're never going to know, because whatever she ends up saying is going to be what she chose to say. So the truth is never going to be known.
So, okay. So I want to take a step back and look at us talking about this, right? Like, we are in, allegedly, a democratic republic, right? In the United States of America. And the way our society operates is honestly neo-feudal. We have these feudal lords. They have all the power, and it's concentrated in very few hands of billionaires. And some people have soft power and some people have real power. And like, it's not, but that's why I'm calling it neo-feudalism.
I don't think so. I don't think Childish Gambino and Taylor Swift are feudal lords.
No, they're a little bit different, but like, they're sort of like, I guess the way I talk about it more is like, there seems to exist though, like, it's like we never really got rid of the nobility, right? There's still, in a way, the kings and queens and princes and whatever, and the nobility. But the thing is, like, it looks a different way. But so celebrities, I think, are sort of like the nobles. And that's like the fear of the proletariat and the French Revolution, like, happening again, like, eat the rich, all this stuff, like, all this discourse about like taxing billionaires and this and that, is people actually fear the power of people organizing, right? That is actually the goal of hegemony and of like propaganda. It's to keep people from having a consciousness of the shitty nature of the realization of their economic position.
Which is why Taylor Swift saying vote in your best interest is so important, because she's saying don't vote for those who already have power, vote for your own power, is what is so scary to them. It doesn't matter if she endorses Joe Biden or not. Telling people to vote for their own self-interest. But do you remember feeling like you shouldn't vote for your self-interest, you should vote for establishment? Do you remember thinking that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like it was wrong or selfish or something. Like we were taught, like, oh, with democracy, people are just going to vote themselves more money. That's what Republicans do all the time. They vote themselves more money. See, it's okay for you to do the same thing. So her voting for your own self-interest, vote for the most marginalized person you know, vote for yourself, vote for what you want, is what was so revolutionary about that. I'm sure Donald Glover has politics. I don't know if he does, but that's why. But think about these two people. They're not wasps. Well, no. I guess they're wasps, but Taylor Swift, she has power because she's a woman. So she actually exploits that power. So to her, she's a real threat to the hegemony too. So it's very likely she's, as far as intersectionality, she has a lot of privilege. So, and what's frustrating about that is because then she can walk in the circles that other people can't walk in. And that it's frustrating because it's like, okay, she's saying stuff that other people who are not as white as she is, not as rich as she is, not as straight passing or straight as she is, can never say, but God bless her for saying it.
Sure.
It's frustrating though. I get frustrated by it. Like so often I'm just like, okay, Taylor Swift said the most milquetoast, basic ass liberal shit. And people are like, oh my God, and here I am with shit I say and no one cares.
No, that's the thing is like they have this platform and they command our attention and admiration, right? Like it's almost like a form of worship. Like instead of religion,
I just don't like what you're saying.
I know you don't.
Okay with
but,
this.
like, let me finish. Like, but instead of religion, we have these other like, and I blame Neil Gaiman for like American gods and like, but like this is the thing, like with belief, like we invest like power in these people. And I think and like, they're a little bit more innocuous, but like when it comes to somebody like Trump and people believing and investing power and like putting belief and faith in somebody like that, like it's incredibly dangerous, right? Like most people that like have some kind of influence or power aren't like inherently dangerous, right? Like they have a platform where what they says matters, but for the most part, I think we talked about this. Taylor Swift, not a perfect soul. Nobody is. I wouldn't expect her to be, but uses it for some amount of good. There we go. And I think Donald Glover does too. And I think that a lot of people but they still are in this position of power, right? They're still in this position of power and influence. I'm likening it kind of to nobility, right? And I think that that's not unfair.
But why are we worried about Taylor Swift's power and Donald Glover's power when Donald Trump still exists? It's because it's novel.
Okay.
Like, you're hand wringing about people who are literally doing nothing bad with their power simply because they have power. It's giving Harry Potter breaking the Elder Wand.
Okay.
Like, we need liberal will to power. We need it. As liberals, we think power is bad, shouldn't have it. What are we going to do about this power? Instead of thinking, why don't we give power to people who deserve it? Sorry.
No, it's just like, so why is it okay for Taylor Swift to have lots of money and all these things, but not for Jeff Bezos? Like, why are we?
I didn't say that. We should.
No, I'm not saying, but like, I'm just saying so Taylor
Swift would have the same amount of power that she has now if we had an increased income tax and a wealth tax. She'd have the same amount of power because wealth is relative. Okay, so her billion would become 100 billion. Fine. She would still be the richest person in the world because there would also not be other billionaires. So the wealth disparity would stay the same. It's kind of stupid that we don't do this, honestly. So the conversation that we have is why is it okay for Taylor Swift to have $100 million instead of $1 million? Okay. It's the same thing. Okay. It's not okay that she has that money. We should have more wealth tax, but Jeff Bezos shouldn't have his money because Amazon should be a public utility. It's not okay that a single person owns so much of a public utility. She's just selling records.
No, listen.
He owns a huge means of production. He owns the storefront to too many people's means of production. His Amazon is essentially a utility, and it should not be owned by the private.
No, Amazon is an example of vertical integration that like reminds me of like the Gilded Age and Fordism and all of that, where it's just like every single letter, there are practically, if not literally, like Amazon towns, like corporate towns at this point.
Yeah. And good for him for all his innovation, but it needs to be condemned by the US government.
No, for sure. And that's the thing is like, I mean, they are not the same. Like, let me just put that out. And I'm not trying to single out Taylor Swift or Donald Glover or any of them. It's just that I take aim in general at celebrity culture, not because I hate celebrities. I think they're awesome in some ways, but like, there's something about it that's like, it's giving very like French aristocrat. And like,
French aristocrats didn't earn it.
No, that's true.
She earned it. Donald Glover earned it. Maybe they got more than they should have got,
no.
but they
absolutely they maybe had a leg up, but they did a lot.
No, that's not what I mean. Maybe they have more revenue than they should have. That's what I mean. But they've earned it. Like, whatever, maybe the dollar amount and the disparity is wrong, but the difference between royalty and a celebrity is a celebrity made art.
True.
So, I mean, that there's just huge differences in my book. And I'm not trying to pick on you, but it's really frustrating to me. And it's not, because I used to think the same thing, but like, power doesn't corrupt. Power reveals.
Okay.
And if we keep thinking, so you know who doesn't think power corrupts? Conservatives. that what you're thinking is an extremely not conservative thing to think. Conservatives don't think that. They think if you have power, God wanted you to have power. They think those in power should stay in power. The problem with Robespierre is he didn't have the experience or the pedigree to handle power, and that's why he was so terrible. Okay, that's what they think. So they don't sit here thinking, I don't know if, if king should have. That's liberals. Okay, so we inherently have a distrust of power, which means we're always voting out incumbents. We're always wanting someone. You see liberals all the time. Oh, maybe we need to have term limits. No term limits, because that means someone else who's gotten paid for by someone else. We want Bernie Sanders in there for his entire fucking life. Okay, so we want people who believe that inequality to seek positions of power, and so we want celebrities who believe in equality. We want celebrities who worked hard for what they got. We don't want celebrities who were gifted it because Donald Trump tweeted that they were funny or something like that. We want people who were scrappy and innovative and brilliant to have the success of society.
Well, yeah, or like Robert Downey Jr. overcoming drug addiction and then winning an Oscar. Like, all of those things are good. Like, I impress, like, I was like listening to an interview about Oppenheimer, and like he was spouting off like about like energy policy and like nuclear possibilities, and like he'd actually done like homework, talking to these scientists like who run like nuclear weapons programs. And it's like, okay, like maybe he's like, oh, I was actually inspired. No, fuck it. Like, I mean, I'm really impressed by that. Like, he's not like, he works hard. Like, that is work. And like, there is a lot of work that goes into what happens and what they do. And that's fucking impressive. It really is. You have to admire that.
Yeah. I was actually like really into him then when I was actually like, he broke my heart when I left Ally McBeal. Broke my heart. Broke it. And I was just like, Robert Downey Jr., don't do drugs again. Ally McBeal. And then he did that Elton John video. Do you remember that?
I don't, actually.
Oh my God. He did an Elton John video. So for a while, Elton John was having celebrities lip sync his songs, because he was just like, kids these days, they don't care about me. So he had Justin Timberlake, he had Elton John. I think he had who is that girl? She's actually an actress. Forgot. She's one of the child, but she's actually an actress. She was in a sitcom. No, she was in a drama. Forgot what it was though. But she did one of his videos, I think. And the one that Robert Downey Jr. did, I Want Love. Have you heard that song? It was in Rocket Man. Okay. So it's a beautiful video. And it was right when he was canceled back in the 90s. Canceled. Yeah. He got fired from Ally McBeal for doing drugs, and he was uninsurable for movies. He did this video, he goes to rehab, gets clean, then he does Iron Man. Okay. I remember thinking, really? I thought, how can he be on Iron Man if he can't be on Ally McBeal? And then he does Iron Man, and he killed it. And then because of Iron Man, we now have the ridiculous superhero renaissance we're having. It's because of Iron Man. It is. I mean, I don't know if you remember Superman before that. I loved the Superman movie that came out.
Oh, yeah.
Loved it, with Brandon Routh in it. Loved it. Really, I really love the Tobey Maguire Spider-Mans, but that's not what set it off. It was Iron Man that set it off.
For sure.
There you go. The MCA, whatever. I don't watch those.
MCU, yeah.
I
do. I've watched them all. I've watched the shows. I've invested in it.
No. So I watched some of them. I watched Endgame. So
there you go.
But everyone, I had to watch a primer, so I knew what was going on. I was like, why did everyone disappear? And I watched Guardians of the Galaxy, but I didn't. What is Guardians of the Galaxy have to do with all this?
I think you should watch the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. They're good.
I watched the first one. That was a lot of fun.
The third one literally starts with Creed, and I was sold. But it started with Yeah,
but everyone was making the mixtape, and I was so cringe. I was like, no, stuff's already on my Spotify playlist. Why are you guys making a mixtape? I know,
but it's good. It's good how they do it.
I know, but it's so cringy.
It's not. Well, I mean,
Ooga Chaga, Ooga.
Yeah, but then it gets better.
Great. Thank you. I already knew
better. the second Guardians of the Galaxy is whatever, but the third one is so good. It has 90 songs. It has Toad the Wet Sprite in it. It's great. I know, like so many bands I had forgotten about. I heard in it. It's all about.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So,
okay, so what if I was going on about the celebrity culture realm on the MCA universe?
Yeah. No, I was sitting here thinking it's ironic because like you gave me when I was like 5 my first CD, and it was a Mariah Carey CD. So like you inducted me into like celebrity culture, like really. And here we are.
Hold on. I think we talked about this before, but remind me. I gave you a Mariah Carey CD.
Oh yeah, Dream Lover.
Lover.
And I was.
Was it the single or the album?
No, it was the album. It had Hero on it. It had like, and I ended up like singing Hero and like a elementary school
music box.
talent show.
The album
it was
music
the music box. Oh my god, yeah. But it had Dream Lover and Hero.
Dream Lover and Hero.
So good. Thank you for correcting me. But like, yeah.
Don't get her. Let me just make sure before I.
No, we can't.
That music box? Mariah Carey.
I think you're probably right.
Music box, Mariah Carey. Dream Lover. Anytime you need a friend. Now that I know, Without You, Hero. Yeah.
I should listen to it again, honestly. It's been a while.
God, yeah.
So that's the thing.
I got you involved.
And I guess like that's sort of what we've been talking about, right? Is that mass culture and all of this, like, I mean, I was maybe going on like a little bit of an absolutist rant, but it's just because, of course, I'm skeptical of power.
You're a liberal.
Yeah.
Are you like power? We need to think about whether you should have power or not.
No,
and that's your job. You're a liberal. I
need to be gauche. Because this is the thing. Like, there is, whether you want it or not, like, Princess, like, Diana was subversive. Like, against, even though she was the powers that be, like, she knew what to do. Like, she handled it with grace. And, like, even though Taylor Swift for a while was just benefiting without saying anything, like eventually she's like, I'm going to risk it because I can partly, but you know, whatever, I'm going to risk it. And I'm going to make a statement against this anti-feminist candidate that is like terrible, like in my state. And
did you watch more than just that clip you sent me, or did you watch the documentary?
I haven't watched the whole documentary. No. I've seen like various versions of that.
She definitely had creative control over that thing. It's pretty much Taylor Swift propaganda. She wants you to believe that, she did a soul searching thing to realize that she needed to come out. But I'm here for it. Again, you know what? If you're going to want people to believe that you're sincere, you're sincere. So I believe that.
That's what I'm saying is like, so, I mean, okay, so I'm still
she knows how to communicate to her audience.
She does.
Yeah.
She does. And that's impressive. And people, but that's the thing. It's like, okay, so I'm still going to be a liberal and I'm still going to be obnoxious leftist. It's like, yes, and, right? Yes, and these people have a lot of wealth concentrated in their hands and a lot of power concentrated in their hands. It's like, I can't like begrudge them having influence. That's awesome. They worked for that, this and that. But I still can begrudge this like incredible concentration of wealth. Like, and it's not just her. So I'm not like, oh my God, Taylor Swift is the worst. It's all of them. And you have to say that is inherently unfair. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. So let me give a little bit of perspective. So a lot of her wealth. So a lot of, like Rihanna, for example, owns a makeup brand, right? Taylor Swift owns a touring company. So as she was touring, she started, instead of renting, to whenever they can, they will buy she has upward integration for a touring company. So when she's not touring, other people are using her trucks and her stages and all that other stuff. She had that infrastructure. So it's not that she's got $1 billion in the bank. It's that her company is worth that. So, whatever a company is generated in revenue, you divide it by 0.04 typically, and that's the value of the asset. You divide it by the typical expected rate of return of whatever is the US Treasury bond or whatever. That's what that number is coming from. And so they take that number, it's probably like 800 or 700,000, and they add up how much they think that she has earned from this, and they add up what her houses are worth, and they add that all up, and that's where Forbes comes up with this number. Who knows if it's on the number? She's not going to correct them, or she's not going to say, but that's where it comes from. She doesn't have that in the bank. She just correctly built her touring company. Does that make sense? She probably has
absolutely
300 or 400,000, a million in liquid assets, and not in liquid assets. She probably has like $1 million in liquid assets that she can do, but she's worth that much because it brings in this revenue. She's also, so yes, I do believe in that, but like, don't think that Jeff Bezos has $1 billion either. Amazon's worth $1 billion.
When we say like he is a billionaire, like it's in these different assets.
That's why he has that money, because he had to write a check, but in order to write that check,
I love her, by the way.
In order to write the check, he didn't just he had to borrow against his company in order to do that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So like she has more financial freedom than he does because his value is in Amazon. She got out. So like he literally couldn't do what she does unless he like borrowed against Amazon, like to get equity line of credit against Amazon.
We do need, and you actually like elucidated that very well. Like we need to have a little bit more complex view when we're talking about the concentration of wealth and what people are worth, because it's in these different assets and it's not truly worth that. It's like what in theory someone could sell and this and that. So that is an important part of the conversation and just context and perspective to have in understanding what's going on. Absolutely. And like, I am not like, I shouldn't be like, I'm not anti-business. I don't care about wealth per se as a problem, but the problem where it really like comes down to it. And I'll be honest, I haven't researched enough of Amazon's practices, but I know there are some problems.
Oh,
but
they're terrible. Yeah.
When
down with Amazon, 100%.
Corporations, and this is more the context I have. Like when corporations, especially multinational corporations, go to countries where they can buy off the government to pollute, like hurt people to get a cheaper product. Like I just see that as the most evil form of capitalism, because people are dying so that your shoes cost 5 cents less. And that's fucked up. Right?
Lots of layers between that. There's so many ways to not take accountability. And some of it you can't do anything about. Like, some of it you can. Like let's say Rihanna tries to buy ethically sourced mica. Then there's somebody who's getting unethically sourced mica and laundering it to make it look ethically sourced. Like,
for sure.
Even if you try, like... I mean, I think we just got to keep fighting the good fight every day.
Yeah.
But chopping the heads off of billionaires, do I think that'll help? No. I think
honestly, it's a hydra. It's a hydra. You chop one off and another one just grows. Like let's be honest. At this point, it's just a hydra. It's a hydra that you would need Hercules to fight.
I just feel like I think John Oliver, that he's a hero. I think he's doing a lot of good work, a lot of that, and whether it turns into something, I think it does sometimes it doesn't. But activism, is the rent we pay to live on this earth. We've got to get out there. So I believe you have to have activism. You have, yes, think about where your money goes, but also maybe don't judge people who can't afford that or aren't, I don't know if boycott is as powerful as we may think it is. If you do it collectively, it is. Other than that, I don't think it's the panacea that a lot of people think it may be. But I think
what would be the panacea? Sorry.
Boycott.
Oh, gotcha.
Like a lot of people just like, well, I'm going to spend my money on this makeup versus that makeup. And I'm just like, you know what I mean? So like a lot of it's, and then the market gives you that makeup, right? They're like, oh, look, we're vegan bees. We have vegan bees or whatever, just like, why?
The problem is like, I think what you're talking about is like a lot of it is just marketing. Like, is something truly fair trade, right?
No.
Like, how far do I have to go to know? Like, there's this great like Portlandia skit where they're eating chicken in the restaurant, and then they have to know, was this chicken treated well? And so then they go and they end up like living on this chicken. This chicken was treated well. And I really have to become
Did the chicken die from my dinner?
Yeah. It's like, how far do you have to go? Right. And I'm not saying you shouldn't research or go like blah, 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 blah. Absolutely. And honestly, like I used to be like much better about this. And I'd like read like reports from Oxfam International, and they have a lot to say. And there is a lot of good things to know about how people are being treated around the world. And like just having a basic essence of, yes, I fucking care about this. But at the same time, and this is like leaving aside our absolutism, like things are not so simple, right? Like it's so easy to just condemn people that shop at Walmart because that's all they can afford, right? Like Walmart has some shitty business practices, but like condemning people that need to go there to afford to live, fuck that. You know, that's a really, really bad snobbery that I can't get behind, you know?
Yeah. So organic farming, for example, takes more space. Space leads to deforestation. Okay. So we need people who want a better world to seek power. And I think that's why I'm so like, give power to people who want a better world. Instead of like, let's be skeptical of power in general, because if we are skeptical of power in general, then the people who believe in power, which they do, conservatives believe in power, are going to seek power.
I'm just going to be abstract here, so don't take this too literally, but like, aren't we just like putting our chips behind another feudal lord and being like, you do this, you have power, we're going to support this like nobility and this faction so that you can change the monarchy, right? And is that just the way it has to be? I don't think so. But
I don't think it's that way.
Well, I mean, it feels like that, right? Because like if what you're saying is like, well, these people have power and we want it to be good. And this is sort of like, I guess, the idea of republicanism, but it's like, if you take it outside of like, oh, I'm voting for this person and they're going to do this, it's like, I'm behind this. I mean, yes, you have to be like, you have to have a collective thing. And of course it's not, that's what I'm saying. Don't take this too literally, because I'm not living under this. I'm not a vassal living under this noble doing this service like per se, but it's just like, I don't know. Like it just doesn't seem like we have broken this cycle of monarchy and nobility and peasants and all of this happening. Like we're stuck. And I don't know how you get beyond it. Am I wrong? Like,
yes. Of course, I don't care.
Yes.
We don't have a monarchy in this country. Taylor Swift is probably going to lose popularity with the next time she sneezes. Like celebrity culture is fickle. I'm not sure why you think it's
no, it's absolutely fickle.
Well, then there you go. If celebrity culture is fickle, then it can't be a feudal situation.
What is it supported by?
What do you mean? What is it supported by?
What builds up celebrity culture?
People like your art.
Okay.
Right? Isn't that why you like Childish Gambino? You like his art?
Well, kind of, but I also like the persona. I like the idea.
So he's a performer. It's a spectacle.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So he's good at being a celebrity. He's charming. He's charismatic.
Yeah, and that's why I'm making the argument that they're the new nobility, because I think that's how that operates.
But nobility isn't chosen by the people. Nobility is born into it. They don't have to be charismatic.
Well, that's true. I guess that's more like Nepo baby.
Yeah, a Nepo baby. You can complain about a Nepo baby all you want. Yeah. That's a little different. No, with the Kardashians, I don't think Childish Gambino is the Kardashian.
Absolutely not. That's why I respect the hell out of him. You know, like, and that's why I like, so maybe I, put my support behind the right person.
Yeah. So, but like, is your support unconditional?
No, absolutely
not.
So
it's democracy. So your support, if you didn't you didn't sign over your firstborn to Childish Gambino and now you're in servitude to him, It's not about the Lord, because you could change your mind tomorrow, and you will. Okay, he's going to disappoint you.
Yeah,
So is Taylor Swift, and he's going to maybe the disappointment will be because he's something problematic. Maybe the disappointment will be because he puts out a bad album.
Sure.
Okay, that's going to happen. So that's very different than absolute power, or an aristocracy, because if they mess up, nothing happens to them. And this is why, when systems in all things being equal, do I side with the status quo or do I side with the marginalized? Even if it's he said, she said, and you don't know, can't say for sure. You always side with the marginalized, because the powerful can withstand being falsely accused. The marginalized cannot. And so until the trials, you believe victims. You believe victims. You believe the marginalized party, because society is protecting the privileged party. So you put your support behind them. Okay. And sometimes you're wrong. Okay. Jussie Smollett was wrong, but we were wrong to believe him at first. That was the right thing to do. So you side with the marginalized party every time until you know better.
So why is for conservatives the exact opposite?
Because they believe in power.
Yeah.
They believe those in power should stay in power. So when Jussie Smollett is getting all this support and stuff because he was marginalized by these MAGA people, by the way, there aren't MAGA people in the loop. I lived in Chicago at the time. There's no way there was guys around. At first it was just oh, wait, that did not happen. Okay, there are not people in Trump hats in the loop. So no one here believed Jussie Smollett when that happened. We're no. So literally, you hide if you support Trump in Chicago. That doesn't happen. Yeah. So when we're going to look for houses, we're oh, there's Trump signs. That's not here. So so you believe the marginalized, okay, until shown otherwise. Okay, guess what? Women lie. You can't believe every woman, but you believe them as benefit of the doubt. Okay?
No, believe all women. Let's be absolute.
I've lied. I don't know if I told you this, but I've lied before.
Oh my God.
So guess what? I'm capable of it. Okay. So we all things being equal, you side with the victim. Until the victim shows to be making a false accusation, you side with them until that happens. And you're but never say, oh, you're hurting everything for everyone else. That's stupid. That is a marginalized, that is the powerful. The powerful say that. Don't believe that that's bullshit. Okay, so you side with the victim, you side with the marginalized party. Okay, so I side with Taylor Swift because she's the marginalized party against men.
I can support the skepticism, absolutely.
But
so
the moment she marginalizes someone else, you're going to be I don't know. Okay.
Yeah. So what do you do about?
Oh wait, I haven't scared him away.
Oh my God! Yay!
Something I mentioned to Lydia once before, but yeah, one of the ways you can tell that. Give me a second. So, what's interesting is conservatives actually get excited when they see marginalized people being, trying to abuse their privilege or whatever, right?
The social capital.
Because they're now we have an opportunity to undermine all the legitimate.
They threw a kiki when Jussie Smollett turned out to be lying.
Yeah. So it's it's interesting how that happens.
Is it a kiki when they do it?
No, they're not allowed to appropriate that.
They can't throw a kiki.
No.
I can't have a kiki.
Only the cool people can.
Yeah.
So you're saying that they actually get excited when they find out a woman lied, or a gay person is exploiting,
right? Because those kinds of people help them undermine people's belief in all of the legitimate stories of marginalized.
That's why Colleen, Elizabeth Ward, Pocahontas was so powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's what's the word I'm looking for? Here's the trap. So maybe I'm not actually against celebrities, person. But celebrity culture is so toxic because the moment this marginalized person becomes powerful and famous, or it could be a politician that overcame blah, blah, blah. And the moment they mess up, even if it's small, everybody jumps on it, whereas they wouldn't on somebody that was like in the hegemony. So it's so difficult to be in that position. Do you know what I mean? You have to be, there's that pressure to be like the model, right? The model woman politician. Like, oh my God, you can't make this mistake. Whereas like a man, he does that same mistake all the time and worse and doesn't get called out for it. So it's like, how do you unpack that, or how do you deal with that when
You watched the Eras tour.
how
Have you watched it yet?
yeah, no.
Just watch it and you'll get it. You'll be like, what? I'm just kidding. Actually, I'm not. Like, it is actually like, there's a reason why it's considered the greatest concert of all time. You're like, oh, I think I'm starting to get it. Okay. Yes, that's true. That is true. But it's because exactly what Mason was saying. So hegemony wants to bring down Jussie Smollett. Okay. We, the liberals, we absolutely have courage of our convictions and we don't want to be hypocrites. So we're not going to go, I like that Jussie Smollett. He's got
absolutely.
We're not going to do that because we actually believe in our position. Okay. So we don't believe in faking a marginalized position. We actually believe in helping the marginalized. Okay. So that happens. Okay. So the thing is, that sentiment to want equality for everyone, especially for people who are like you, which isn't really equality, and the sentiment to protect what's yours if you think you deserve it, you inherited it, or you want it, to protect what's yours is in all of us. So we have to be mindful of that. Okay, so we're always going to want more. That's literally what capitalism is built on, the belief that everyone will act in their own self-interest. And we all act in our self-interest. We all want our kid to go to the best school. We all want the house with the picket fence. We all want a safe community. Okay. But some people believe in making that a reality for everyone. Some people believe in protecting that because they think it's a zero-sum situation and we have limited resources. So we got to protect ours and me and mine. And that's true to everyone. But that's literally why conservatives say, well, why do we have an open border? You're not leaving your front door open. They're literally admitting that's what they believe when they say that. Okay. That's how they equate it. So you just but I want to push back a little. I feel like I'm picking on you today. I'll push back a little bit on what you're saying. So if you recognize that celebrities culture is toxic, and the reason you say it's toxic is because it can end so quickly at the drop of a hat, and how is that like a feudal lord?
Well, I mean, no, it's not as ingrained or powerful.
And I know you said that you don't just take it with a grain of salt, and I get that you're working through it, but that's why I'm not actually okay with that. I'm okay with it. Like I love cancel culture. Like I think it's great, and I don't have a problem with it. Okay, that being said, I do not like when it's okay. That's not true. I don't love cancel culture, but I do.
Wow, that's polemic.
Yeah, I yes, that is polemic. I do believe that power should be democratized. And if I believe that if people say, hey, you know what? We shouldn't buy Lizzo's music because XYZ, then maybe we can give Lizzo the benefit of the doubt and hear her out and whatnot. But like, fine, don't buy her music. I actually don't believe you should be criticizing other people who still, I'm not going to sit here and tell you. I think I'd probably judge you if you were listening to Bill Cosby. I'd probably judge you. But other than that, art's art. But I definitely am not against cancel culture in any way, except when it goes too far, which of course, so we're all, but I think that the big anxiety with cancel culture is that it's new power. Like new money, it's new power. Mm-hmm. So that's what everyone's freaking out about, because with the internet, public opinion is more powerful than it ever has been in the history of forever.
Yeah.
And so bad press is more powerful than it's ever been. And so people who have enjoyed power without having to worry about bad press are suddenly feeling anxiety. And that's why there's a conservative backlash against it. The people who believe in good values shouldn't be upset that people with bad values are losing power, and yet they are, because that's not their true position. The true position is power for the sake of power. That might makes right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Harry should not have broken the Elder Wand.
Wait a second. She's canceled. How can we talk about Harry Potter?
Well, I canceled her because she had Harry break the Elder Wand before she was a transphobe.
There you go. There you go.
And the fact
Perfect.
that she made Dumbledore gay after the fact, instead of when it actually mattered to her, she got her money first, and then she made Dumbledore gay.
That's true. That was a problem. I remember being like, oh my God, representation.
Oh my God, J.K. Rowling, so woke.
Oh, fucking whoa.
Anyways, did I pick on you too much?
No.
Do you ask me those things because you think I have an answer?
No.
I do.
Maybe. I mean, partly it's to elicit a response, but I think it'll be interesting.
Here's the thing, like, I'm going to stop now.
Yeah.